The Liberal Public Safety Minister was caught on an audio recording downplaying the role police will have in the Liberals' gun ban and confiscation program.
The terrorist group Hamas has thanked the Liberals yet again after Prime Minister Mark Carney officially recognized a, quote, Palestinian State.
Prime Minister Mark Carney praised the communist Chinese dictatorship for its, quote, sincere climate policy, despite the country being the worst polluter on Earth. Hello Canada, it's Tuesday, September 23rd. This is the True North Daily Brief. I'm Cosmin, Dzsurdzsa.
And I'm Geoff Knight.
We've got you covered with all the news you need to know. Let's discuss the top stories of the day and the True North exclusives you won't hear anywhere else. In a leaked audio, Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangiri dismissed concerns from a tenant who worried about being arrested if he refused to surrender firearms banned under the Liberal government's gun confiscation program. The audio, provided to True North by the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights, was recorded by a tenant in one of Anandasangiri's rental properties. The minister initiated the conversation on the program, which he suggested will launch today. Anandasangiri told the tenant that he had three options: deactivate the firearms, turn them in for compensation, or do neither. The tenant asked the minister whether he would become a criminal if he refused to comply. Anandasangiri expressed doubt and added, "I just don't think municipal police services have the resources to do this." When confronted by the tenant with the prospect of police raiding his home and handcuffing him, Anandasangiri suggested that he doesn't think, quote, it would go that far.
I'm going to refuse to hand them in. They're going to come in, rip open my safe, right? Take those firearms and put me in handcuffs.
I doubt very much it's going to go that far.
Absolutely it's going to go. Because when you've given a mandate as the minister that these firearms are no longer allowed to be in these people's possession.
Yeah.
And you have...
Yeah, I will come and bail you out if that happens.
You don't need to come bail me out.
I will. You call me.
I don't want to be bailed out, right? Now I have a criminal record.
However, when his tenant asked Anandasangiri if he would pardon his criminal record for disavowing the confiscation scheme, he said he doesn't have the power to do that. There's actually a lot in this recording. I think it's about like 50 minutes long. Most of it isn't about the gun confiscation program, but the part that is, it says a lot about the minister's own beliefs versus the public-facing comments he's made in his role. Now, as of yesterday, the minister put out a comment, a statement about this recording being leaked, and he said essentially that his words were taken out of context, apologized for some of it, and said that he had made a mistake in the way he phrased the gun program. But for a while now, Anandasangiri has insisted that this program is voluntary, despite it clearly having the threat of arrest and potentially violating criminal law and becoming a criminal, as this tenant brings up, if you don't comply. So it isn't really a voluntary program. Some would call it a Hobbesian choice, and that is, it's not a real choice, but it's an illusion of a choice. So what are some of the other things that the recording went into?
Yeah, Cosmin, the audio recording also revealed Anandasangiri's apparent skepticism about the gun confiscation program's enforcement, with him admitting to the tenant that he doesn't truly believe in its necessity, which suggests it's being pursued primarily to secure votes in Quebec. He further disclosed a lack of confidence in the program's logistical support, noting that the $742 million funding cap might be exhausted quickly, leaving participants without compensation. Anandasangiri hinted at internal government pressure, mentioning offhand that the initiative was pushed forward despite his reservations, which aligns with his earlier leaked remarks about electoral motivations from Quebec influencing the policy's revival. The Palestinian terror group Hamas has again thanked Canada's Liberal government after it officially recognized Palestine, joining several European nations in the controversial move. This marks the third time in recent years that the terror organization has directly thanked Canada for support. According to the Hamas news agency Shihab, the Hamas leadership called Canada's recognition, quote, an important step. It said, quote, this action is an important step in establishing the right of the Palestinian people to their land and sanctities and on the path to establishing an independent state with Holy Quds as its capital, which is the result of years of struggle, perseverance, and sacrifice of our people on the path of freedom and return. This comes as Hamas spokesperson Gadi Hamad spoke to Al Jazeera's Arabic channel on Monday, where he linked the official recognition of Palestine by Canada and others to the organization's October 7th terror attack against unarmed Israeli civilians. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas launched a terror attack against Israel, resulting in approximately 1,200 casualties and over 240 hostages taken. The majority of those killed were civilians. In the interview, Hamad argued that, quote, the fruits of October 7th put the world's eyes on Palestine, and questioned if any new countries recognized Palestine prior to October 7th. So, Cosmin, obviously Hamas is celebrating Carney's recognition of a Palestinian state, but what precedent does the Liberals' move actually set on the international stage?
Well, yeah, it definitely doesn't set a good precedent when Hamas is the first to cheer this announcement. And as much as the Liberals claim that this doesn't benefit Hamas, they are clearly celebrating this and view it as a diplomatic win, a way to gain legitimacy, which should be a giant red flag, because for them, it's not just a symbolic gesture. It's validation of the program that they have for the Palestinian state and beyond. You have their own spokesperson essentially endorsing the fact that the October 7th attack was what put the world's eyes on Palestine, which means they had the objective of essentially gaining legitimacy through terrorism. So when Carney says, and he actually said this yesterday when he was speaking at an event, that he doesn't want Hamas anywhere near the equation of a two-state solution. He says Hamas shouldn't be part of Palestine's future, and that essentially it should be abolished. But even if he says that, that's very naive and frankly detached from reality. Hamas controls Gaza, and they have huge sway over the Palestinian population, and they're essentially the militant authority of Palestine and its future. And the fact that when you're legitimizing the state in this way, it extends to Hamas as well. They're not just some fringe player, they are one of the main players, if not the main player on the Palestinian side. So while Carney talks about peace and a future state, the reality on the ground is that the people celebrating his choice are Hamas. Prime Minister Mark Carney heaped praise on the Communist Chinese government for being, quote, run by engineers and having a, quote, very sincere and engaged climate policy, despite China being the number one contributor of global pollution. While speaking at the Council on Foreign Relations on Monday, Carney suggested that Canada had more in common with China than the United States.
In my experience with China, they are, amongst other things, very sincere and engaged on climate. This is a country run by engineers. This is a country that understands a lot of the engineering solutions to issues around emission. They've happened to have built real competitive advantage in a number of these areas as well. So there's a question of how, and there's almost a standing offer from them about how to engage in the global comments in and around climate, which a country like Canada, which is it is an energy superpower, when we're certainly going to build and fully exploit that.
According to the International Energy Agency, China is the world's largest emitter of carbon dioxide, primarily due to the country's heavy reliance on coal combustion. 2023, China accounted for nearly 31% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions, up 4.7% compared to 2022. Chinese authorities show no sign of slowing down when it comes to the construction of new coal power plants. In 2024, the country began building several new coal-powered facilities expected to produce 94.5 gigawatts of electricity. Carney's comments come amid ongoing efforts by the Liberal government to rekindle trade relations with China, including negotiating over seafood and canola tariffs. By contrast, he characterized the United States as hesitant on climate, saying, quote, "The U.S. could choose that lane very easily, but probably at the moment, that's not where the engagement will be." So this really brings back some memories. The Liberals seem to be overly sympathetic to China for several reasons. What sort of things have we uncovered or covered in the past as it relates to Carney's infatuation with the Chinese Communist government?
Yeah, Cosmin, this isn't the first time Carney's expressed admiration for the Chinese government, and certainly not the first time the Liberals have. It echoes sentiments from his 2024 election campaign where he praised China's centralized governance, a stance which is reminiscent of Trudeau's earlier comments in 2016 calling China's dictatorship positive for economic decisions. I believe he said that he admires their basic dictatorship. The déjà vu feeling stems from Carney's 2020 role as Brookfield Asset Management's chairman, where he championed investments in China's renewable energy and property markets. Then there's the emails from Carney's Beijing speech in March 2024, where he lauded China's decisive leadership in climate tech, which again mirrors Trudeau's 2019 praise of China for their climate efforts. This hints at a policy tilt that critics have linked to both leaders' pro-trade stances, which is a narrative resurfacing with Carney's recent Council on Foreign Relations remarks on Monday. Additionally, the outlet highlighted Carney's silence on China's human rights issues during a May 2025 trade forum. Now contrast this with their criticism of American climate hesitancy, and you have what appears to be a consistent pro-China bias amid ongoing tariff negotiations.
That's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can stay on top of new episodes every weekday by subscribing to the Daily Brief on iTunes and Spotify. Also, while you're at it, make sure to hit us with a 5-star rating and please leave a review.